Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of DeepTech Studio. In this episode, we will deep dive into the deep tech ecosystem of Singapore and the importance of storytelling for deep tech innovators. SGInnovate is one such platform that helps entrepreneurial scientists build deep tech startups. Also, it provides the network that helps in both human and investment capital. But the work definitely doesn't end here. It's just the beginning. There is also an aspect of storytelling and brand building that the startups need. One person who's responsible for these entrepreneurial scientists to craft, shape, and tell their stories is SzeKi Sim. Joining SGInnovate as part of its pioneer team, Sim has come a long way, and she has helped many innovators build, commercialize, and scale deep tech startups from Singapore. She is here with us to discuss what goes on behind the scenes to build a community for deep tech. Hello, SzeKi. I'm so glad to have you with us for DeepTech Studio.
Thank you, Vaishnavi. It's so thankful to be having this opportunity to have a great chat with you. I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you. SzeKi, let's just dive into the main question that I want to understand. What really goes on into building a community for deep tech?
Well, from my own experience, a lot of groundwork goes into building a community for deep tech, especially given that it's been a relatively new concept comprising of different disparate mini communities. For example, let me just cite our own experience in the early days of SGInnovate. There was no single deep tech community in Singapore. Instead, there were very many mini communities having meetup meetings, in the various technologies. And we wanted to come in and try and see how we could actually build this community. And being new and, deep tech as a category did not exist during that time either, right? So we literally had to roll up our sleeves and just get things done. So very hands-on in our approach in building building SGInnovate as a brand and deep tech as a category from the ground up, because we needed to create impact very, very quickly. So what we did was, nobody knew who we were, right? SGInnovate didn't exist at that time. We were brand new. So we needed to very quickly build credibility and start to get activities going. So what I did with the team, and during that time was actually just me and myself, I would reach out to organizers on meetups.com literally and cold call and say, hey, we've got this venue at our office space. Why don't you host your meetup here? And so that's how we started, right? And then people would start coming to our activities and our events. So we looked and sought out potential partners, right? Because we wanted to get and start building that community and get together the whole ecosystem. So these partners would include universities, corporates, different organizations, VCs, other founders, other startups. And together we would then very, very diligently curate and produce these deep tech focused events. It was a lot of effort, I'll tell you. And although SGInnovate is funded by the Singapore government, we have a pure startup mentality. Our pace is startup pace, very, very fast, and having to pivot very quickly as well. So it was a lot of effort. But frankly, I think that is what's exciting and that really sets us apart, because this on-the-ground approach helped us to build meaningful and authentic networks across the very different tech communities that existed at that time. So word of mouth coupled with very strong, I would say strong, integrated marketing comms strategy really helped us to build our community very quickly over the years. So a large part of our community building is to drive conversations and to build awareness of important topics, especially when you're talking about deep tech, right? Very frontier technologies where people may not know so much about. So there's a lot of awareness that needs to go into talking about these technologies and what is the potential impact of these technologies on our everyday life, right? So we work with our partners, and on average, we would organize 2 to 3 events a week. And that provided a very strong platform where people from across the ecosystem, be it founders, researchers, VCs, talent, corporates, academia, government, we all come together to share their experiences of their journeys of innovation. So this, to me, is a fundamental belief. It's a fundamental belief that these conversations are necessary to inspire other people to come on board and be part of that ecosystem. We think that, people, like-minded people coming together to share their experiences really inspires and sparks conversations, building networks, very important process of building great companies and this whole journey of innovation.
Got it. SzeKi, you said it's not easy, and anything that's good, worth having, is not easy. I'm sure there might be challenges. What were those and how did you navigate them?
Well, if I may, I always like to share this story about when I first started, right? So I joined as employee number 3. It was just me and me alone in the marketing team. And we had a very, very quick timeline to meet, right? We had 2 months to launch SGInnovate to our then Deputy Prime Minister, so no pressure there. And we had no logo, no website, no team. But frankly, for me, it was such a great opportunity to be able to build a brand and a team from scratch. But there's a lot of hard work and we needed to get credibility quite quickly. And, cut a long story short, we launched, thankfully, with great success. But as I shared, during that time when we first started SGInnovate, that was in 2016, deep tech as a category did not exist. And when I joined, I Googled deep tech and what would come back, right? Search results came back with electronic dance music, DJ Martin Garrix, nothing to do with technology. So we had to set about building this category, driving awareness and conversations around deep tech and its potential impact. So there was a need to explain the term deep tech for us as SGInnovate to clearly articulate our vision and to contextualize how our work will bring about impact to societies and economies. And of course, we had to build our reputation and credibility as a thought leader in this space. So to achieve this, we focus on 2 key areas. Firstly, we set out to build a community by bringing people together, as I shared above. So the key is not just about, it's not a numbers game, like I need to do, that my mode of success was not, I need to have 3 events a week. But we were very particular about the type of topics, the type of speakers that we brought on board, right? So we organized highly curated events and meetups to drive these discussions, partnered with like-minded local and international organizations, the likes of the United Nations Development Program Office, World Economic Forum, corporates, from the Googles to the Microsofts, government agencies, not just Singapore, but international as well. And we covered a range of topics, such as sustainability, healthcare, startup enterprise collaboration, future of talent, just to name a few. And our events serve as a great platform for people from across the deep tech ecosystem to network and to connect. But it really doesn't stop there. And because even after the event, these conversations continue on our social media channels. And we believe, like I said, that like-minded people coming together, sharing knowledge, sharing about, the pains and the gains that they went through is an important step in the innovation cycle. This is where ideas can be sparked, right? And they can learn from other people. So the second area that we focused on very early on, I said that we need content to be driving a lot of our activities, right? So storytelling, as you kind of introduce this session, is so important, right? How do we tell stories of innovation, founders' journeys, their challenges? All these are real human stories, and they're featured constantly on our digital platforms. So in the 5 years since our inception, I'm confident to say that we've established ourselves as a key driver in the deep tech ecosystem in Singapore, leading in investing in deep tech startups, developing and matching deep tech talent, and building a thriving deep tech community. I'm really proud, that we're only 5 years now, but, in such a short time, I would say that we are the largest and fastest growing deep tech community with close to 70,000 contacts. And, in the good old days where we could actually have events, in person, hey, COVID hit us, right? So what did we do? Even with the challenges preventing us from holding these physical events, we very quickly pivoted and moves all our events online. So that's what I mean when I say that our DNA is startup, our mode of operation, our pace is startup, right? So we moved everything online. And this has given us even greater opportunities to be able to extend our reach beyond Singapore, right? Because going online makes it even more accessible for international speakers and attendees to be part of our thriving community.
That has been a lifesaver. Trust me, the virtual meetings for all of us. And SzeKi, I'm so glad you mentioned the aspect of storytelling, because I want to explore what are some of the lessons in storytelling that you would like to give to the innovators.
First, let me kind of share with you SGInnovate's mission and purpose, right? We believe that the world's biggest problems can be addressed by deep tech.
Yep.
And we do this by working with entrepreneurial scientists to build deep tech startups from Singapore for the world. So what are the three areas? First of all, we invest in startups and work closely with them to build and scale their companies, develop and match talent with promising companies, and we build a very engaged and thriving ecosystem and community across the whole deep tech ecosystem.
Okay.
And we're close to our 5th anniversary today. And as I mentioned, we have the largest and fastest growing deep tech community in Singapore. In 2018, we launched the DeepTech Summit. And these are platforms for us to really bring people and tell their stories, right? Because in new areas where it's not so known, where do you start? People who may want to get into the startup ecosystem may not know where to start, right? So by hearing other people's stories, it inspires them to want to, potentially get involved in the community and in the ecosystem. So all these things that we do is providing platforms to be able to allow this knowledge sharing within the community, right? And even with the investment work that we do, how do we work with founders? How do we invest in companies and help them to build and scale their startups? Because it's not easy. And when you talk about talent, right? How do you inspire talent to join startups? Talent is a challenge everywhere, whether it is startups, whether it's corporates, in everywhere you go to, talent is a challenge, right? The lack of talent is insufficient talent. But you add startup to the mix, it becomes an even greater challenge because talent may be more inclined to go work for the huge Googles and Microsoft, where things are a lot more stable, right? And where the brands are a lot more known. But when you add startup to the mix, when it's an unknown brand, it needs to have that much more effort to be able to entice and bring startups in. So some of our talent programs is to give that real hands-on experience to talent to show that, you know what, great, big organizations, fantastic, right? But when you come and work in a startup, the impact that you have is very real, right? What you do has great impact to the team and to the startup. And you also get the experience of being, I wouldn't say the master of, it's not quite a jack of all trades, but you will get to experience every single element within the organization, right? You may come in, for example, when I came in as a marketing person, right, to join SGInnovate, you were still involved in a lot of, the building of the team, the culture, so, the different elements to build that company. So it's the same, that's what we want to do. So I think that, that how we go about telling stories of innovation by using the platforms that we've built is instrumental in sharing that knowledge and inspiring other people on the kind of impact that they can have and enticing them to be a part of this deep tech community.
Got it. SzeKi, there is one aspect of deep tech, which is very much different from the regular startup investments. Deep tech requires patient capital because, as we were discussing, there are aspects like quantum or autonomous vehicles, which will see inflection maybe later on. In that case, how do you then entice investors with storytelling or with brand building who do not have that kind of risk appetite? How do you get them into the ecosystem to build an appetite for deep tech?
No, you're very right, right? I think that, and we know of stories of deep tech companies who took 20 years, right, before they became a unicorn. So it is a challenging journey. But I think the important thing is, you know, in the world today, right, we are facing existential threats, really, with COVID, with sustainability. And these are problems that are common, not in a it's not confined to any specific geography, but these are really global issues. And what we want to do, and that's our role, right, is to show that these technologies or these deep technology has that role to play in being able to address some of these issues. And the best way to attract investors is to really show them that you can do good as well at the same time. And in many ways, because of this attention to what the world is facing today, many investors today are also looking at the ESG component. That's becoming very important, right, from the investment landscape. So that works in our favor, right? Understanding that there is a need to address some of these issues and understanding that these take a long time, it would then increase that appetite a lot more to then invest in these companies. And that is our role, to be able to curate and build that community of investors, talent, and players so that we can feed them back into the ecosystem. I'll give you an example. Quantum computing is a very new technology. I mean, we were the first investors in quantum in Singapore. This was about 2 years ago. And as the technology is so new, it wasn't well understood, right, by the investment community. So what we did was we worked with the founder to look at how they rolled out their product rollout plans so that they made it more palatable for the investment community. And we went in and invested in this company, and that too sent a signal to the investment community that, okay, since SGInnovate has participated and invested in this quantum company, that's an area that we could potentially look at as well. So we serve as that role to catalyze investment monies that enables the growth of other potential companies.
SzeKi, let's discuss a little bit about the country, right? Singapore is a masterclass in making it big against all odds. And the deep tech ecosystem in the country is no different. What has worked so brilliantly for Singapore's deep tech ecosystem, and what can the world learn from it, other deep tech ecosystems across different geographies?
Well, I think first of all, Singapore is very small, so it's easy, you know, it's easier to bring people together, right? But I would say that nobody can claim to be able to do everything and to achieve everything on their own. The importance of partnering and collaborating with different organizations, with different countries, that's critical because we are all fighting the same battle, right? And I would say that I think in Singapore, we've been very, very blessed in that the government has long recognized the importance of innovation and been very supportive and committed to building this sector. So I'm not sure whether you're familiar, but the government had a Research, Innovation and Enterprise 2025 plan, where a total of 25 billion Singapore dollars was committed to wanting to dedicate it to R&D in Singapore. So the RIE 2025, what we are hoping to do, what the government wants to do with that, is to help the country emerge stronger from COVID, while ensuring that it shores up its defenses against future threats. And deep tech has been identified as a key growth driver for the digital economy in Singapore in the post-pandemic world. So government plays a very, very important role, right? And at the same time, with new disruptive technologies, opportunities will come with challenges. So how do you prepare the workforce to ensure that we are keeping up to pace with this transformation that's needed? How do we ensure that workers are equipped with the right skills? Because these frontier technologies, there may not be that, that whole pool, ready pool of skilled talent to be able to work on these technologies. So there's a need to rethink and redesign some of these skills development programs and matching jobs with the talent, on the job training to build skills, to be able to feed back into the economy and the ecosystem. So that's something that we focus on. And it's not just building talent within Singapore, but it's also leveraging talent internationally, right? Because we can't do that alone. So again, importance of collaboration and partnerships. And because we're a small market, as I talked about before, we've never been myopic, and we've always maintained a very, very global view. Especially so for deep tech startups, because otherwise it will stunt their growth if they don't have the world in their horizon and in their purview. And the fact that global issues are not just confined to Singapore makes it something very relevant as well. So I think collaborations, I'm happy to say that between Singapore and India, we have a very long history, obviously, of very strong business ties. But even at SGInnovate, we've partnered with the likes of FICCI, Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry. And so we partner with them to drive conversations and to be able to collaborate and connect the ecosystems. So connecting different ecosystems across different geographies is going to be very important to be able to achieve what we hope to do.
Awesome. There's one resonating theme, that is collaborations and partnerships, because you can never do it alone. Again, as I said, Singapore makes it big every time, despite all the odds. So thank you so much, SzeKi. It was so nice talking to you, and thank you for all the lessons, and I'm sure the deep tech innovators and investors are going to appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for watching the episode. Stay tuned to DQ Deep Tech for more updates. Thank you.